Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here, Monday now, the 30th of September. Welcome to the last day of the month, and what a month it ended up being. Helene will go down in history as one of the most destructive and most deadly hurricanes of the last many decades. Over 130 people now confirmed dead. It looks like just a terrible, terrible situation. We saw it coming. We saw the pattern, the Central American gyre, and it produced, unfortunately. We're not done yet, though. The hurricane season still has a couple months left at minimum, maybe even longer than that, owed to the fact that we have such a warm Atlantic and Gulf and Caribbean. And as such, we've got a couple of areas that we need to watch. Hurricane to be Kirk out there in the East Atlantic, tropical storm now, going to be a big ace producer, helping to sort of bolster this idea that we were going to have a very busy and high impact and overall high intensity hurricane season. And then we do need to watch the Western Caribbean and parts of the Gulf of Mexico. The models are starting to get kind of wishy-washy again, but we don't want to just walk away from it and ignore it, even though chances of something developing over the next several days are starting to decline, it appears. We still need to watch these areas. That's why we have that graphic there, right? Well, let's get started. National Hurricane Center. Well, we'll do that in just a second. Forgot, I got this for you. Post here from Colin. This is just remarkable. Look at this. This is an animation. I'll play it in just a second. 4 out of 6 hurricanes formed so far this season have made landfall in the United States. Beryl, Debbie, Francine, and Helene. 2 Cat 1s, a Cat 2, and a Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. I'll have some commentary about that at the end of today's update. Boy, get ready. But this is the radar animation. This is a really cool thing that Colin has put together. Look at that. The impacts were certainly there. We might not have the big numbers overall that were forecast because of that dead period, but who cares? This is what it's all about right here. Major impacts. And look at the different things that you can glean from this. Watch all the tornadoes that are going to pop up here. These are the tornado warnings from Beryl. And of course, Beryl had the tremendous power outage situation in the greater Houston area. Look at all those red polygons. And then you had Debbie and, of course, Francine. And then most recently, absolutely catastrophic Helene here, dumping tremendous amounts of rain post-landfall, wrecking parts of the western Carolinas, northeast Georgia, after a tremendous storm surge in the Big Bend area, affecting all the way down to Tampa and points south from there even. Very high impact hurricane season. And that is the bottom line here when we talk about seasonal forecasting. I myself have to place less emphasis on numbers and stats and more emphasis on impacts. I think I've been doing a pretty good job of that over the last several years, really highlighting that we need to consider things like rain as an impact. I believe I'm trying to brag here a little bit because it's true, really pushing the fact that rain is an impact, but also that categories really kind of don't matter at the end of the day, and neither do your seasonal metrics when it comes to what we all really care about, and that is, how will these systems affect us? Well, there's 4 examples of how they can affect us right there in front of us. Now, National Hurricane Center homepage. End of September, looks like the end of August. Pretty weird, but here we are. Post-tropical Isaac up here. Joyce now depression weakening. Kirk will go on to become a powerful, long-lived hurricane, and again, that's going to jack up that ACE metric. Metrics are important, but that's more relegated for science at the end of the day. The true weather nerds out there, honestly. And this will become Leslie. I'm certain of it. And then this whole area through here, we'll have to just watch and see how things evolve. Kind of a mishmash of possibilities from a variety of the global models. So tidbits and weather nerds both not receiving satellite data for some reason. So we went over to the National Hurricane Center. This is a beautiful, beautiful animation. I forgot that these were there, courtesy of NOAA and the NESDA STAR program that goes east, GeoColor. So like a true color look out here. And here are our systems. There is Kirk out in the Atlantic. That is going to be a large, sprawling, intense hurricane, and it will stay out into the open Atlantic. No worries there. And then we have the leftovers of Joyce up here. Isaac's way up off the top of the screen. And then another system is going to develop back here. And there's an upper level low spinning across the Caribbean, some deep convection in and around Central America. And all of this is just going to kind of get tangled up in here over the next several days. And I can show you that on the modeling here in just a few minutes from the GFS especially. Vorticity-wise, boy, this really served well. This particular product did a great job of helping us identify when the Central American gyre was going to finally consolidate an area. We had John in the East Pack. It fired that off first. And then, of course, we had Helene in the Atlantic Basin in the Western Caribbean, and eventually the Gulf of Mexico. So a very handy product to see where our pieces of energy are, our ripe grapes on the grapevine, if you will. And a lot of energy out here. And this is very telling, too. This is your track for the next several days because you've got a break in the ridge sitting out here. So all these systems are going to move on out for the most part. We do have to watch this next one, though. Some indications, especially from some of the Euro guidance, that this could come more to the west with time. We'll see. Not anything to be concerned with, but ensemble packages are helpful because you get an idea of all the possibilities that are out there, and there are some possibilities in the ensemble system, especially from the Euro, that the next system that would be Leslie, moving on down the list there, could get a little bit more west than we originally thought. So we'll keep an eye on that, of course. Might as well, right? So interesting stuff here. This is updated daily, but it's always a day behind. So tomorrow, this will say the 30th of September. Kind of hard to see where Helene did any damage to the anomalies. I think this will change, though, once we get tomorrow's update. But still, this was yesterday, and that is Sunday. And Helene made landfall Thursday night into Friday. It did take a chunk out of this area, anomaly-wise, got it much closer to normal. But everything else is still markedly above normal, above average, especially the Southwest Gulf, the Caribbean through here, and especially so the tropical Atlantic. It's just bizarre. It really is. I mean, we knew it was warm, but we're getting into October, and we're still looking at very strong positive anomalies in the Atlantic Basin, and that is concerning, especially as we get through the next couple of months. We got to continue to watch the southwest part of the basin, and then eventually the Caribbean for other activity. It's not just the United States that we're concerned with here, and this is really interesting. And looking at the actual temperatures, this is our southeast and east coast areas. Even the waters right off of my neck of the woods here in Wilmington, North Carolina. After we had some activity up here with PTC 8, it's rebounded, and water temperatures close to 80 degrees Fahrenheit again. Gulf of Mexico, now this is really interesting. So we chewed away at those anomalies through here and the actual temperatures. Trying to figure out my choice of words here. Don't want to get tongue twisted. So yes, the water temperatures have come down, especially in the Big Bend. Low 80s, almost the upper 70s is, when you get really close to the shallow areas up there. But what also has happened, because Helene was so big and you had the circulation coming around like this, such a large circulation, you have kind of pushed the warmest water south. So the shelf water is starting to cool off. That being said, that is still 29 Celsius right there, and then 28 right up against the coastline, which is 82 Fahrenheit. And then all your 30 and 31 Celsius still lurking elsewhere. So we're not done until we get a big, deep, penetrating cold front down here that can do this is what a cold front looks like, right? And we can get that cold air advection with cool, dry air blowing across the Gulf to cool things off. We're not done, not by a long shot. We just have to keep watching and being ready. We're reeling now in the wake of Helene. Luckily, the models, let me just show you what it looked like even a day ago, just to kind of remind you. This is what the GFS operational was showing, and I want you to pay attention to this area. Right through here, GFS was indicating that we could get a system developing and then making landfall somewhere. And you saw those two competing systems, even three of them. 1, 2, 3. Kind of, again, that gyre kind of deal out there. Nothing really consolidating. Now, as we push this to today, a little bit of a different story, which is a great thing to see. So we don't need any more shenanigans right now. Not much energy. I mean, it tries right there. This is only 48 hours out. A little piece of energy just does try to get together east of Honduras and Nicaragua. to the southwest of the Cayman Islands and vicinity. So this might try to spice up a little bit, but then things just generally fall apart from there. Trying to discern why, and the upper pattern, fairly favorable, maybe some northeasterly shear, not nearly the setup that we had for Helene and for Kirk out here, by the way. That's exactly what you would look for right there. The hurricane, would-be hurricane underneath that high pressure area. And then we got another one trying to develop over here, and that shear is going to hammer this one for a little bit. But as far as the Caribbean system goes, Gulf system, it just doesn't look as favorable right now. But that could change. We saw, I do want to mention this, how the GFS especially, it did really well at locking in on which piece of energy from the Central American gyre would get things going for Helene. And then it went, crazy with the intensity there, and we all thought, oh, here we go. And run after run after run, the GFS was indicating a significant hurricane coming into Florida. Then, it was basically a week ago, something like that, it kind of jumped off on the 18Z. I remember that, Monday, Tuesday, whatever it was. And it was like, well, maybe not so much, indicating kind of a low 970s landfall for pressure. And we were kind of wondering, all right, is this not going to happen as the GFS was indicating? But then the hurricane models were still insistent, most of them anyway, that we'd get a very strong hurricane. So there was a little bit of waffling. That's my point here. And we all know how it ended up. It was on the stronger side of things. So I'm not as concerned, but that's not the same as forget it, nothing's going to happen down there. I want to make that very clear. The models could swing back in a different direction in a few days' time. It just seems very volatile right now, taking a lesson there from Helene. But this is Kirk right here. Let's use blue to kind of highlight things. We'll put a K for Kirk. This will be Leslie. Nothing really to worry about with that system. Kind of spread out and not bundled. But let's just run this out to a week. And there we go. There's 168 hours into the future. Again, broad area of energy sitting over the Gulf. Maybe this will help to stir things up, be a rainmaker or something like that, and bring those water temperatures down. Kirk will go on to become a long-lived, powerful hurricane. Leslie here, probably following Kirk out into the open Atlantic still, but some of the Euro ensembles not suggesting that, so we'll see. This is the GFS operational, of course. And just looking out to the first 2 weeks of October, why not? Because it doesn't show anything crazy, so, you can't, how that goes. It's good to show it when you don't have much out there, but you got to be careful too, because it can swing the other way. Oh, there was nothing out there, so everything looked fine. But it is interesting that the traffic pattern is set up like this. Isn't that interesting? I think it's interesting, and it's good because we don't have to worry about any nonsense over here in the western part of the basin. Meanwhile, I want to end with this big-time heat wave for the west, and there's a little inset here. No, Florida is not now part of the desert southwest. That's why it's called an inset. Late season heat wave in the southwest and South Florida. And I know that, it's more up here that was affected, but folks down in Florida, you got some extreme heat risks there. It's just ridiculously hot down there. I know CJ is going to be like, and our friend Adrian down in southeast Florida, yuck. But yeah, the desert southwest is going to be very hot as well as we get into October. And we got to look for the possibility of things being so dry and low dew points, low humidities, the possibility of wildfires, because we are getting up on wildfire season, probably already in it, but it looked like that could be more of a problem as we go forward. All right, so let's get back over here. A little bit of commentary. I don't want to go on a long rant. Saffir-Simpson scale, in my opinion, not helping us with understanding these hazards. And I want to present it to you this way, because I know there's people that are going to argue it works, it's perfect for wind, why change it, it's been around forever. Well, let me ask you this. Why don't we, A, name significant winter storms? A certain weather company does that unofficially. That's their marketing thing. That's fine. The UK Met and the European folks, they all name them over there officially. So we don't name winter storms. We do have a winter storm severity index, but we don't have a category necessarily. We don't say, the winter storm of February 2nd, whatever year, was a category 3. There are some intricate stuff, like I said, with winter storm severity indexes or indices. We don't name, what was I going to, So we name tropical storms and hurricanes. We don't name, tornadoes, right. There's a lot of stuff in the head here. We don't name tornadoes when they're happening, and that makes sense. That's nitpicking a little bit. And the damage that's done is surveyed in the aftermath. You cannot officially look at a radar and say, oh, that's probably an EF3 or an EF4. And of course, the enhanced Fujita scale used to be just the Fujita scale. So what I'm thinking is, if I could just snap my fingers and everything would change like Thanos, except, bear with me here, right? Marvel reference. We would not have the Saffir-Simpson scale. We'd still name hurricanes, and it would all just be about the impacts. Okay, we have a hurricane coming. The winds are 100 miles per hour, and with that, we are expecting X amount of storm surge, X amount of rain, and here's what you need to do about it. Simplify it. Not having a category that basically says what's going to happen at the coast with the wind. And by the way, the Saffir-Simpson scale was not developed for storm surge. That was added later. And it's just too complicated, in my humble opinion, and even my professional opinion. Most people hear Category 4 at the coast. That's where it's going to impact as a Cat 4. And they live inland 300 miles, and it doesn't connect. Oh, it's just going to be a tropical storm up here. A tropical storm named Helene is what caused all of the mayhem and the catastrophic flooding and all the death inland from the coast. It was a storm and then a depression, and it was a Category nothing. Okay? Harvey was a Category 4 at landfall near Rockport, Texas, and then it was a catastrophic, whatever category you want to call it, for flooding in the greater Houston area. I could go on and on and on. There needs to be something different and better, and I don't know exactly what it is, but the communication of these threats must improve, and this is my most important point, we need to take more responsibility as individuals to do the research ourselves and not have everything expected to be handed to us on a silver platter or in a push notification or an EAS message or whatever on this right here. You can use this to research and do your own studying of what to expect by reading the hurricane local statements, by reading the National Weather Service products. I point those out time and time and again. I tell you where to find them. It is up to you to go research it wherever you live, put in your zip code, and learn yourselves. All right? So part of it is the system as a whole, and the other part, definitely us as individuals need to do more to educate ourselves about these hazards so that we don't sit back and say we had no idea this was coming. We don't all have to be weather geeks or weather experts, but we can all at least have some level of education because we do live in areas, unless you're in San Diego, and they have their fire problems probably and maybe an earthquake or a tsunami someday, right? But unless you're in San Diego where it's 72 and sunny all the time, just kidding, they do have variable weather, then you need to be up to date on the weather. It is that simple. All right? With that, I'll bid you a great rest of your Monday. Hopefully this week will end up a lot better than last week. I think it will. And we'll continue on. All right? From all of us at HurricaneTrack, I am Mark Sutta. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow at 9 a.m. with a YouTube Live, and we'll just take a look at the day ahead, and we'll do tomorrow's update tomorrow afternoon.